Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who have experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 82 of the E-Show. And on this week's episode, we feature one of the youngest franchises in the league, the Railers Junior Hockey Club. Heading into season number 3, Sean Bertoni and the Railers are feeling confident with the hopes of having a normal year on the horizon. With their inaugural campaign and a pandemic season behind them, the Railers have laid a great foundation out in Worcester. The EHL team more than doubled their win total from year 1 to year 2, while the EHLP team reached the championship game this past March. To wrap up the episode, the E-Crew puts together an all-time lineup that includes a strong core of players eligible to return. I'm joined now by Sean Bertoni, the head coach of the Railers Junior Hockey Club. How's it going, Sean?
Good. How you doing, Neil?
Good. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And getting ready for this, thanks for coming on and getting ready for this conversation. It was it kind of caught me off guard because I feel like you've been in the league forever. This is only season number 3. Does it feel like season number 3 for you?
You know what? It's been great so far, and we're working every day. So it does and it doesn't, I guess. I feel like I've been here for a while. I'm learning every day, but it's been a long 2 years due to, mainly last year. Such an unusual year dealing with COVID and the off and on, dealing with the testing and unfortunately guys getting COVID. But hopefully we have somewhat of a normal year next year and we bring back some normalcy.
Well, that's a key word, right? Because your first year heading into it, you're heading into your inaugural season. Your second year heading into it, you're heading into a COVID season. Do you feel like finally you got your feet under you as an organization? Now we're heading into a normal year. Is that how you guys feel?
We do, certainly. With a lot of help and support from others. Collectively, we work as a great team within our organization. We're a unique organization, unique program, and we feel ready to get going. Like, we can't wait for September to get started. That's for sure.
And when you look back on this past year, obviously the better of the 2 seasons for the EHL team and the EHLP team, another solid year where they reached all the way to the championship game. What are the key thoughts that come to mind when you look back on last year?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in our organization has high expectations. We hold each other accountable. From an administrative point, and we preach and teach that to our players. So we want to make sure we're following the same suit. I think it was a good step for our EHL team. Our premier team did a heck of a job under Mike 3. He was a key guy in it all with the success that young team had. 2 very good years for those guys, and credit to Mike. Unfortunately, Mike's stepping down. He's retiring. But we do everything together. Collectively, we work together. There's no I think it's unique in a way where our E and P teams are so close, from a systematic standpoint to guys knowing each other and having familiarity. We're just looking forward to next year. It does seem like it's been 2 different years. In year 3, I feel like we're ready to go come September.
Yeah, and I know you just said that you kind of look at the organization as a whole, but let's talk separately for a second, because first EHL, I think you guys all know this. You win 7 games the first year. I think you had 7 wins by the middle of October, end of October last year. At what point during that beginning of the season did you guys realize that you had made a pretty big jump from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I credit James Mello. I think there was a foundation there that he built in the inaugural season. and then stepping in, we had some returners coming back, and really a new group coming in, and we had great leadership. I credit our older guys last year, our captain, Matt Pimentel and Colin Rowe did a great job with the locker room, and we started a great culture year one, and we built off that, and we instilled values and what we were looking for in year two. And, I credit our players for bringing it to the rink every day and wanting to work extremely hard and coming in with a clean slate, but putting in the work for sure, on and off the ice.
And then you reach the postseason. You match up with the East Coast Wizards, who are a team that every season it seems like they become better as the year goes on, and then they become the team that everyone says it, no one wants to face in the postseason. Fortunately for you guys, you actually knocked them off in that series. What did that moment, what did that overtime winner in Game 3, what did it mean to you and the whole program?
It meant a lot for sure. Again, I credit the players. They put in the work. It was an exciting series. A very, very well-coached team. We battled all year. Corey does a great job with that group, and we expect the same this coming year. But it was really a fun series. It was throughout the year. We just had great games back and forth. And it was exciting. Unfortunately, someone had to lose, and obviously someone won and moved on. But it was just I give the kids, the players, all the credit in the world. To win our first playoff series in overtime in our building, it meant a lot to us.
Yeah, and I want to dive more into this for a second because, like you just said, it was a battle all year. The games were close all year, but the trend was unique because you actually won the first 4 matchups against them, and then they won the last 2 of the regular season heading into that playoff series. Was there a nervousness factor knowing that they had got you the last 2 times when that series began?
No, I don't think so. We're confident. We put in the work. We study each other. We know each other inside out, our players, our staff, etc. I think it comes down to execution. Coming in with the right mindset. Preparation is key. We stress that all year, being prepared for games. And that starts, it starts at the beginning of the year, obviously, but it starts having a good week of practice, good couple of days of practice and being ready to go and coming in confident.
And then we switch over to the EHLP team. Both Railers teams matched up with the Rangers. The EHL team got knocked off by the Rangers. Was there a little bit of a revenge, refreshing? At least we got the EHLP team past the Rangers?
No, I don't think so. Credit to them. Obviously their EHL team was very talented. Again, well coached at both levels. Richie and Keith do a great job. That was an exciting series at the P level for sure. They went back and forth pretty much all year. I think they had the upper hand, throughout the season. But again, it was good hockey. It was really good hockey, and 2 talented teams. And I feel like any of those teams, one of those teams could have done it, could have won the championship. And the Railers lost to the 87s. But it was such a good season for our P guys.
In back-to-back years where you kind of been a contender from the get-go at the EHLP level, what's unique is it was kind of your team the first year, Mike Odessa the third last year, and then it's Jack Lowry coming in this upcoming year. You guys had a chance to bring in the EHLP, the reigning EHLP Coach of the Year. What did that kind of mean to your program?
Yeah, first year it was definitely Mike and I. We were co-coaches. I can't give Mike enough credit for what he's done to help me. The way we play, the values we implement here with our players. Mike's a great coach. He's a great guy, and that's more important. And I think our players see that and realize that. We are fortunate to have Jack. I love. We feel like we've known each other for 5 years, and we've known each other for about 5 months. So he's a great guy, first and foremost, and I think it's huge. We're happy to have him. I think his relationships with players mean so much to him, and just seeing some of his former Lumberjacks at different showcases this summer, like the conversations they have. It means a lot to his players. It means a lot to him, and he's about helping the young man first, and that goes a long way.
So in bringing Jack in, last year's Lumberjacks team reached the Frozen Finals. Your program reached the Frozen Finals in the championship game. Are the expectations of Jack Frozen Finals or bust now?
Oh man! All right. Oh, don't put the pressure on him. He's going to have a lot of fun, and we're gonna get after it come September. But again, he's such a good guy, and we're all very competitive. I know our competition. We want to win. That's not why we're here, but we're competitive guys. So we want to do the best we can for our players.
And you mentioned Mike Three's name so far. Obviously retiring from coaching, but spent the past 2 years with you. You got Matt Odessa, Mike's brother, who owns the program. And then, of course, you have Big Mike as the GM, one of the most well-known names in hockey on this East Coast. What is it like for you working with the Odessa family?
I love it. I consider myself part of their family.
Okay.
I hope they do as well. I think I do. We have the greatest ownership. I can confidently say that. They're all great guys. I'm learning from all of them every day. And it's not just there's other guys behind the scenes. Brian and Derek Alfama does a great job. We just have a great group of guys that have the best interests of our players at all times. And I think that's important. But I couldn't ask for anything different. Like I said, I'm always I want to learn every day, and I do from all our guys within our organization. And the Odessa family has been phenomenal to me in my growth as a coach and as a man. And but there are other guys behind the scenes that do a phenomenal job as well.
Well, let's talk about Derek for a second, because I want to put him on a list of people that work in this league that you don't hear about as much or see their names as much. But I know from the league perspective, being able to call up Derek for a quick answer for me is invaluable. What does he really provide to you guys?
A very extremely organized person. Again, knows the junior hockey world. He's very detail oriented. We all bring something different to the table, but I think at the end of the day, we all enjoy structure, and we're very detail-oriented people. It shows on and off the ice. But he's great. I mean, I just called him this morning and said, hey, can you take this off my plate? Yeah, no problem. Yeah. It's that easy, and it's the relationships we've built, less than 2 years, right around 2 years. Everybody is working extremely hard, and everybody has their piece of the puzzle they're working on. And it's great. We all come in, and it's just a collective group of guys that are working extremely hard for the best interest of the program and our players.
Yeah. The best interest of the players, which is a great transition, because I want to talk about a few players in particular from this past year, because it was such a unique year. And with the borders being closed and just the influx of players that there was, you guys had a chance to make a couple additions during the year. So let's start with the first one that if you went to any Railers game in the second half and you saw this kid skate, he blew you away. And that was Kolye Benkoskis. When you brought him in, did you know what kind of speed he had, or did it just show up at the first practice and shock you?
It shocked me. Coach Grace at the time and I talked right after, I think, practice number one. Coach A knew Kolye, brought him into us, and I couldn't believe he was with us, to be quite honest. I was surprised he wasn't playing in another league. Division I speed. His explosiveness is very, very rare. In a kid that came in and gravitated towards the players that were there, and very, very coachable, and hopped right in and had a really good time within the limited time he was here. And we're extremely excited he's going to be playing at UMass Boston,
where you played in college also. part of your college career. What did that mean
It
to
is
you to help
different
him?
when I played.
What did that mean to you though to see him go off to where you were?
Yeah, obviously the familiarity. I lived there for 10 years, right, a mile away from the rink and the school, and it's a great program. And Peter Belial has really turned the program around, and there was familiarity there with Collier and Coach Belial. So did it mean anything to me? Yeah, it did. But he's just such a good kid, and he's organized, he's responsible, he's accountable, he knows what he wants to do within his career. It's not just about hockey for him, and that means a lot.
And you mentioned D1 speed for him. Speaking of D1, type talent, Jagger Benson's going off to Plattsburgh State, but he's got D1 talent on the back end. When you brought him in, was it the same sense of shock that you got to add that player to your core on the back end?
Yeah, I think with Jagger, it was great. With all the guys that Coach brought in, I thought the biggest thing was how they acclimated themselves to our team. There was no egos. They were great character guys, and you worry about that, right? You can bring a skilled guy in, but you want to make sure they fit your locker room. They're willing to buy in, and again, credit to them. All these guys throughout the year, and the guys that came in halfway through, they all bought in.
Yep.
And I think that's the reason we were able to have success at the end of the season and in the playoffs.
And speaking of guys that bought in, those are two guys that you brought in during the year, right? But of course, your core, as you mentioned, has been built off players that have been with your program for a couple of years. Let's look at a player like Joe Lazat. To have a player like him, climb up from the EHLP team to the EHL and help you really set the foundational pieces in place for the program. When you look at him going off to college, how much pride do you guys take in that?
Yeah, before I answer that, the other kid I do want to mention, though, he was a big contributor on and off the ice, was Danny Long.
Yep.
He's a guy that, again, bought in. He ran our power play. He had a phenomenal second half with us. And he brought some personality to our locker room, which was even better. So I just want to mention him because he had such a big impact on our team. Joe was probably, I could say, like the face of our organization, right? Over the past 2 years, he played more hockey than anyone within our organization. Year one, he was one of the captains of our premier team. Just a quiet leader, led by example on the ice, and we are very excited that Joe's moving on to Suffolk. Character guy that he worked extremely hard, and he knew he had to because of his size, and he had to use his speed, or else he would not be successful. So we're very excited to bring in a kid like Joe and have him and see his development over the 2 years and have him move on to Suffolk University.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to Dan Lawn for a second, because it brings up an interesting question, because he was actually in college. Another one of the unique stories that you can look at from the 2020-21 season that, knock on wood, hopefully never has to happen again. But when you have a player that calls you up from college that says, "Hey, coach, we're not going to be able to play in college this year. Can I come back?" How do you go about that conversation?
Yeah, you want to make sure it's the right fit, for sure. Again, I rely on my captains. We rely on our leadership here. They have a voice, and before we make a move like that, we want to check off all the boxes. And knowing, Coach Odessa, knowing Danny Long and the young man he was and is, it made it easy. The transition was very easy for us.
And then looking forward now as we get closer and closer towards the 21-22 season, we mentioned the EHL team more than doubling their win total, winning their first playoff series, the EHLP team reaching the Frozen Finals, the championship game. Of course, the main goal of each team, you want to win both championships. You want to put a bunch of kids into college. But where do you guys really set that bar knowing we want to hit this mark and then keep making strides forwards? Where is that bar set for you guys?
Yeah, we all of us have high expectations. We hold each other accountable. We just want to continue to progress, and especially with a new year coming in September. Like, we need progression throughout the year. You know, success can be defined in many ways in regards to hockey, right? And like, again, we're a unique program. You know, I stress and we teach and we preach time management and life skills off the ice. Some of these guys, it's the first year ever living on their own. Some of them haven't cooked yet or done laundry. So there's that piece to it off the ice. But yeah, again, we're extremely competitive people. We want to succeed on the ice, but you got to put in the work. So we know all our guys right now are putting in the work during the summer months, and come September, we're going to be prepared and we're going to keep working hard and see where it takes us.
And I do have to give myself a little bit of credit. I, on this podcast, was big on the Railers all last year. So I'll start this offseason and say that your first ever EHL Frozen Finals appearance at the EHL level, it's coming soon. So if you guys can't tell, Sean is in a rink right now. I know you got hockey night in Boston this week, so I'll let you get to that. And hopefully before we start this season, you get a chance to enjoy a little bit of the off season.
There's no off season, Neil. And
okay.
we love you as well. Our organization loves you. You do a great job. You guys do such a great job. Again, the junior world being a little new to me, but I think the EHL does a phenomenal job promoting their players, helping us out, making life easy for coaches in particular too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Neil. I appreciate your time.
Thanks again to Sean Bertoni for coming on the podcast this week. As I mentioned at the beginning of the interview with Sean, feels like the Railers have been in the league forever, but Jeff, it's been only 2 seasons.
Only 2. Doesn't it feel like that premiere showcase we did? That feels like 10 years ago when
right? January of 2020.
19? Oh, that was 20? Oh,
yes,
geez.
That was January of 2020. With
right before all this stuff happened.
Yes, during that showcase, it was as I always say, pouring snow at one point. Like, it was like, you can't make fun of me for using the word pouring there, because it was like buckets and buckets of snow at one point. But everyone had already arrived. It wasn't like the day that people were leaving or coming in. So it was like, all right, we can kind of manage this.
Right. A great rink, though. That was the
great rink.
Fidelity Bank Ice Center.
I call it the Worcester Ice Center. You can call it
Worcester
the full
Ice
name
Center.
if you want to.
Like to plug our partners over at Fidelity, you know.
Yeah, sure. It's where our first showcase is this year. EHL and EHLP joint showcase, September 30th through October 3rd. 38 games, 37 games. There's a lot of games in 4 days.
Yeah,
and I know for you want to call a lot of games, but I don't like. Do you want to call in like 19 games in 4 days?
Probably not. And we'll have to see if the schedule allows me to call 19 games with my other contracts that I have. But you know, as you know, I think my record from our old showcase days was like 16 in 4 days, and I'm pretty sure I had like no voice by Monday.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, good times.
But let's start breaking down this all-time lineup. We'll start with the name that Sean gave me during the interview that he referred to as basically the face of the Railers for the last 2 years, and that's Joe Lizotte. He said that because he spent the majority of the 2019-20 season with the EHLP team. But as Bertoni mentioned in the interview, nobody has played more games for the Railers in the history of the franchise than Joe Lizotte. When you look at his game totals in 2 seasons, right? Keep in mind, this is just 2 seasons. This is 2019-20 and 2021. He's got 36 games played in the EHLP and 58 in the EHL. And those people that are asking at home how that's possible, a lot of the first season was spent going back and forth and developing at both levels. So you could imagine that in a typical week for Joe, he probably played in 4, maybe even 5 games say it was split, 2-2 or 3-2 or 2-3, that's a lot of games in 2 years.
That is, it's a lot of
So-
games.
And
He's a good player, though. He's
Like-
all over the ice. I remember him quite well. Obviously, he's only been around for 2 years, so it's not one of those ones we have to go back to the Wayback Machine and be like, oh yeah, back in 2014. But yeah.
like 94 games in 2 years. It's a lot of hockey.
Especially with one of those being a COVID shortened year. He still got
Like-
his games in.
Right? Like that's a lot of hockey. That's a lot of durability.
Yep.
I know he's not the biggest forward. It doesn't have his height here. I want to say he's probably, as I say that, I'm only like 5'8" myself. I think he's my height. But he's the goal scorer, man. And in those 36 EHLP games, he had 34 total points. In the 58 total EHL games, he had 24 total points. Heading off to Suffolk, as I mentioned in the interview with Bertoni, Bertoni is played 4 years at UMass Boston, then played a 5th year at Suffolk. So kind of following in his footsteps a little bit. So we'll start with Joe Lazat, and I think we roll right into another forward that Sean and I were talking about. And I know it was brief, but what Collier Benkoskis did for the Railers in the second half was electric.
Didn't we say, I think it was Jim McCabe that said he's the fastest skater in the entire league when he came in right away on one of the broadcasts. He's got speed.
Like there was a couple breakaways that he just like made on his own, right? Like just like started side by side with someone. It wasn't like he was already ahead. Like was standing right next to somebody else and just blew past him.
I love a name too. Coley Bankowskis. It's one of those
Yes.
names you won't forget. And gonna go play for People Isle and UMass Boston, and we'll see what he can do there.
And the connection with Pete, I believe Pete's from Rhode Island, so that's kind of part of that connection. And I do remember now that you say that about the name, Matt O'Brien at one point during the year, maybe it was someone that was filling in for him, Collier scored a goal, and the broadcaster emphasized that the bank was open, which I was like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'll give you credit for that.
Bank is open at Fidelity Bank Ice Center. Yeah, he's a Coventry kid, so he's from Coventry, Rhode Island, not too far south from me.
Well, that's because the state of Rhode Island's not that big.
This is true. You're from a very large state, your home state of Maine, and actually my home state of Massachusetts is pretty big itself. So yeah.
Is everyone a neighbor in Rhode Island?
Not technically. I mean, you can go to South Kingston. That's South Kingston, North Kingston. That's a good half hour from my house. Like Westerly, that's like 45 minutes. That's like the tip of the state. So
But Collier came in the second half in 22 total games, put up 28 points. So you have to imagine what would he have done in a full year. The scoring was always there for him. He actually played 2019-20 in the NA3. And that's where the numbers really caught my attention when he first came. He had 138 points in 47 games.
And was the assistant captain.
Like, was there an off night in there ever? Or do we just roll up every night and we're like, all right, here's 3 more. Count it.
It's some more symmetry for you too, Neil. 47 games played, 69 goals, 69 assists. It's nice even amount right there.
The consistency is what gets me, Jeff. It's just I like consistency.
Yes, you do.
Well,
so we put him on the board.
We didn't even start by asking where we're going to start. We just started right into the forwards this week.
Symmetry, Neil. Symmetry. Start from the top and go to the bottom, right?
Another forward that you wonder what he would have done with a full year with the Railers is George Vanakis. And it wasn't a full year because he joined the Avalanche for what was supposed to be a playoff run in 2019-20. That's where this gets like so crazy.
I know I remember him as a little flyer. You say Vanakis, I remember Philadelphia Little Flyers.
So, and that was like a big reason why the Avalanche went and got him, right? So 2018-19, Vanakis was on the Little Flyers, put up 48 points in 28 games. Then the following season, signed with Worcester, and the first 37 games had 34 points. Worcester, as I mentioned, was Sean. Like this is how crazy of a turnaround it was. Their first
And
year,
he played 19 games in the NA that year too.
yeah, dude,
Maryland.
Like, he was really good.
Yeah.
And like what makes like George Vanakis never played in a playoff game in the EHL.
Oh, one of those
Like
guys.
it just it doesn't make sense because like he moved to the Avalanche because Worcester won 7 games that first year, which as we mentioned, they went from 7 to 18. That's a huge jump in wins. Like that's a huge jump in wins.
Yep.
But he went to the Avalanche for what was supposed to be a postseason run. Avalanche had a first round bye in 2019-20. Second round never got started. And he hasn't got to play in college yet either. Like it's
he's
like,
waiting to put on the Curry College purple and white, and
it's one of those players where you look back and say, wait a second, he never played in a playoff game. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, no, I would agree, especially because the little Flyers are a perennial playoff team, and you would have thought, oh, but then he jumped off midseason, and I got a good one for you too, Neil. How about Tucker Twardowski?
Yeah, dude, he was a
kid I have liked seeing the last couple of years.
When Sean mentioned that Lizotte was the face, obviously has a lot to do with Lizotte being there for 2 years and Tucker was there for just the one, but he was the captain that 2019-20 year. And I remember pretty vividly actually when Vanakis got moved, there was a thought process maybe Tucker would also. I mean, he put up 30 points in 45 games.
Yeah, he was a sought after name at the trade deadline
for a 7-win team.
Yeah.
Like he was really good that year.
Yeah.
Hasn't been able to play at New England College yet. We've touched on that too many times to count on this podcast this summer. How many kids haven't been able to play in college yet? But like he's one of those kids that when you check the weekly awards this season at the Division 3 level, like we're gonna see his name a few times, especially in that Rookie of the Week type honor. He was great, and he's got something kind of unique there. He played in a few different leagues. He can say he crossed off almost every junior league.
There we go. He's making the rounds.
But he came to the EHL for his age out year, and it worked out for him. He was a captain, and he moved on to New England College. That gives us quickly 4 forwards so far. And I didn't get a chance to ask the specific question if Matt Pimento was coming back to Sean. He's an 0-1, so I think he is.
He's eligible.
I probably should have asked that question. Just been like very blunt with it. But he was, man.
The Rhode Island guy. He's Providence, Rhode Island. What up?
That's definitely a neighbor for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's 15 minutes away. That's right down the hop, baby.
Okay. In 42 total games last year, 33 points. Honestly, like when Collier came in, there were like you had to feel like he was probably the top forward for the team, but like all around player, Pimento was that guy all year long for this team. And probably should have picked him more in fantasy.
I was just going to say, he was another guy. He could put pucks in the net. He was fast, had a good shot. It was a weird year we jumped all around for fantasy. We got ADD at times with trying to ride who was the hot guy, who were
and when Lauren and Anthony hear this for the first week of fantasy picks, I don't know if I get picks first because I won it. Probably somebody else should get picks first, but I'm picking this.
Maybe we'll let one of the newbies go first.
I'm picking him.
Okay, all right. I'll say maybe we'll let one of the newbies or both newbies go first, and the elder statesman will take the back seat and we'll go.
Yes, right. The past 2 winners, Jeff. The past 2 winners. You won year 1, I won year 2. So
you took the crown from me, buddy. Are we gonna be able to be reigning champs this year? Tampa Bay Lightning, a little back-to-back action, or might have a new champ, but we'll see.
Yeah. So
but definitely some railers in our future fantasy picks for this year, though.
Yeah. That gives us 5 forwards so far. And the next forward I want to point out is John Baker, who came to this team this past year. I want to say it was his first year, but it felt like he was there for multiple years. Yeah. 1 year with Worcester this past season, put up 33 points in 39 games. And I just remember there was a game against the Maine Eclipse. So we're talking October or something. And that's when you first started to notice what Worcester was doing. And Baker's line, I think, connected on like 3 or 4, like 2-on-1, one-timer just bombs. And I was like, like, this is wild what's going on. Because I was actually watching the game live, and I remember Tyler, who was calling the game for the Eclipse, was like, another 2-on-1, another one-timer, another goal. And I was like, oh my God,
Like,
man.
what is happening?
Like, and Baker was part of that, right?
Yep.
And he was just solid, man. He was rock solid. When it came to Worcester, at times they kind of got a little bit into that run and gun style of a game. Would you agree?
A little bit like the Lumberjacks at times, maybe.
Oh man, if they played, did they
Vermont.
play? I think they played one time very early. Like if they both played late in the year,
Defense. What's defense?
it would have been like that 87s Lumberjacks Frozen Finals game. That was an awesome game.
Oh,
I still say this
God.
to everyone. That may have been the best game of the finals. Take away
Was that the 6-5 game we had?
Yes.
Right? Oh, man.
So
sometimes you can have some good high-scoring hockey games, folks.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, saying defense are important. Yes, they'll win the majority of championships, but sometimes you want the Railers v Lumberjacks, up down, sprint down.
Right.
Makes for a good product. Not if you're a coach, though. I'm sure Bertoni would disagree and say that would give me a heart attack. And
the next forward I'm gonna bring up, which I probably should have asked again if he was coming back this year, was a leader for the Railers this past season in Colin Rowe. Want to talk about the face of the Railers. Say he comes back one more year, has a great chance to surpass the game totals that Joe Lazat set, right? Played the majority of his 2019-20 season with the Railers at the EHLP level, jumped up to the EHL this past year in 01, eligible to return from Hyde Park, and just solid, right? Didn't blow away the numbers in the EHL this year, but I have a feeling that with one more season, you're going to see a 20 to 30 point guy out of this guy. And as Sean was mentioning, the Railers are building things kind of foundationally, and it's just one step forward at a time. So will they go and add 11 more wins again this season and go from 7 to 18 to 29? I mean, that's a pretty huge jump, but Colin Rose will be a reason why if they can, right? Yeah. So we're going to add him in here next, another 2-year guy. And quite quickly, that already gives us 7.
Loading it up. How about another Johnny on the spot? Jonathan Korchesny? I think that's how we said his name.
Korshane.
Yeah, close enough. Korshane.
But you know what? I'll give you this, Jeff. It's like, how do you get Worcester out of the way that it's spelt?
Worcester, yes.
Yeah, right? Like it's literally kind of the same thing. And for Korshane, to go back and kind of do story time here.
I have to apologize to Jonathan too, because I definitely called him Korchesny a couple times in the last.
You were not the only one. I'm pretty sure.
Not the only one. But
I'm pretty sure I did for a game as well.
Because wasn't he on the Express at one point too?
That's what I was kind of getting to. Is when that 2020 trade deadline was coming up, the thought process was the Railers had, as you like to say, their Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron line, and it was Korshane, Vanakis, and Tucker Twardowski. Are they going to move all 3? Are they going to move 2? Are they going to move 1? Are they going to move none? They moved Vanakis and Korshane. For Korshane, what he can say to Vanakis is that he at least played one playoff game. This is it's crazy to think about. That was the playoff game when Seacoast went to Walpole and beat them in the play-in game.
The play-in game.
Yes, totally different
topic.
Hot topic with some people for sure.
Hot topic that can light a podcast right on fire. Can cause somebody to throw their headphones at home if they hear that. The minute they hear, I'm out. I do remember that. That's right.
And you want to talk about what feels like forever ago? that play-in game feels like forever ago.
Yeah, the group text arguing about playing games seems like forever ago, even though we've had it a couple of times. But
Listen, there's a
Jonathan
play-in tournament in the NBA.
There is.
There's a play-in tournament.
Yep.
Corshane spent one season in the EHL. When you combine his Walpole and Worcester numbers together, it was 48 total games with 16 goals and 14 assists. So just a hair off that symmetry that I love.
Very solid. Very solid.
Yeah, should have passed up one goal for one more assist there. So just a nice easy 15-15.
Take notes, Jonathan. We need that for next season, please. Thank you.
Down to 4 forwards left now. And this is where I'm going ahead of myself now. I need to think about how I want to do these next summer, because it's going to be interesting for the original 6 type teams. There's not too many changes to their all-time lineup, right? If I add one more roster. For teams like this that add a third year, could there be, 4 different guys that sub in and sub out? Possibly.
Easily, I would say so. Especially the way these teams have progressed, our expansion teams in the years past. It's like this is year 3 is usually a big stepping stone, right? Because it's not your first year. Then you get the second year where you're kind of still figuring things out. So I would say, there would be a good chance that we could take a good chunk of guys out and put a good chunk of guys in, Neil, for sure.
And as I mentioned to Sean when we were talking, also year 1, you're going into an inaugural season. Year 2, you're going into a pandemic season. Year 3, it's can I finally breathe?
Yeah. Can we have a normal year? Quote unquote.
Quote unquote. Normal. Yes. Somewhat.
Quote unquote normal year.
So, you know what we're going to do here? We're going to go look at the EHLP roster for a second. Because
that was a damn good team that went to the championship. I was wondering if we could throw some of those guys on here too.
And they're a program that builds as an organization, as Sean said. And they look at the team or the organization as kind of one team. They recognize that there's a difference between EHL and EHLP, but they look at it as kind of one team. We're putting Jaden Blackburn on this list.
Just going to say,
we're doing it. We have to.
Have you seen this kid defines diminutive? Look up diminutive in the Webster's dictionary.
But he scores.
He's not even 130 pounds, folks. He's 5'6", 126 pounds.
But
he looks tiny.
But Jeff, to make us feel old, right? I'm 12 years older than this kid.
Yeah, he was born in 2002. Oh my God, he has the same birthday as me, September 23rd. Jaden.
Well, that's why we put him on, because of the birthday. There you go.
Man. Lock it up. I was September 23, 1989. He's September 23rd, 2002.
And when you meet him, Jeff, he's going to be like, look at you. You're old. You're from 2 decades before
89. Wow, you're ancient, man. Yep,
exactly. In 2 seasons with the Railers EHLP team, 75 games played, 58 points, a huge reason, 10 points and 8 playoff games last year. A huge reason they reached that championship game was Jaden Blackburn. And of course, Trevor helped out with the video. And when Trevor's coming back this year. So there's a big connection there.
Yeah, Trevor's great.
I don't think we can put Trevor as the utility for this one. It would be kind of funny though, right?
What is this company, Blackburn Video? He's got his own he does an unbelievable job too. I'm glad that we're gonna bring him back to do some videos for the league this year.
I forget what he calls it exactly. I think it's Trevor Blackburn Videography. But I would imagine that Jaden.
I'm on Instagram.
I would imagine that Jaden's making the jump up to the EHL this year, following 2 seasons at the EHLP level. That gets us down to 3 forwards left, and I'm looking still at EHLP a little bit because there's a bunch of names that jump out here. They were the Blanchard brothers, right? Who also each spent 2 years with the EHLP team. Look at this. Cameron Blanchard, 33 points. Ethan Blanchard, 30 points.
30 points.
Do you think there's a conversation at home that says if I got one more game,
I would have gotten a hat trick and you'd be toast. We'd be tied.
A hat trick plus an assist would have passed him, right?
What other?
A
Let's
name I
see.
want to put down is Connor Donovan. And this one is unique for me because he's another player that's eligible to return. And he played so well in his first 22 games with the EHLP team last year that the Railers got put into a tough spot where when the rosters freeze, God, this is Captain Obvious, right? When the rosters freeze, that's where you stay, right? The Railers got put into a spot where it was, where do we want Connor Donovan to be on the EHL team or the EHLP team? He had 24 points in 22 EHLP games.
Yes, he did.
Did your cat just join the podcast?
He did.
Did we
Waylon,
just
welcome
did
to
we
the
just
show, Waylon?
did we just add a second mascot to the podcast?
This is the young kitten Waylon. Here he is.
I was
You want to
looking
go see Nash Pup?
I was looking away for a second, and then I saw another face like pop in front of your face, and I was like, "Wait a
You're
second,
like,
where,
that's not Jeff. What
where
just
did
happened?
where did Jeff just go?" Connor Donovan, though, another forward that's not the biggest player on the ice. I will say that, but he's gonna blow you away with speed, and he's gonna get chances to score. And 0-1 coming back, and keep your eye on this player this season. So down to 2 forwards left. We can go any direction really with this. We can keep looking at EHLP players.
Say, what about who's the one I had? Oh, Ben Meisinger is another one too. That's
Yeah,
been there for a little bit. 43 games.
and
And it's tough because we only have 2 years to work with. But
and he finished with the Chiefs this past year too.
that's right.
So I want to. There's a forward I want to say here, and we're gonna say it. We're gonna say Damon Dulac, and we're gonna say his name because he actually started this past season. You're gonna give me a hard time here. He started this past season in Maine. Played prep school in Maine.
But he is Canadian.
Yes. Okay. And look at the numbers though, right? Like he played 8 games in Maine, had 3 goals, and I actually remember Mike Odessa, the GM, not Mike 3, which we've referenced both on
Lots
this
of
episode.
Odessas. Yep.
Mike, when they traded for him, pointed out to me, keep an eye on Damon. And the numbers proved it, right? He played in 24 regular season games, put up quickly 11 goals and 8 assists. And then in 4 playoff games, he almost had a point per game, 2 goals and 1 assist. Like the change, sometimes that change of scenery, just being on a different line with different players, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a shot at where you were, but just playing with different players sometimes sparks you in a way where you put up numbers like you did. And another player that as an 0-1 is eligible to come back. I said this at the end of the interview with Bertoni, Jeff. And I was big on the Railers train during the year.
Yeah, you rode the blue train for quite a while. We gave you some snuff about it. We were like, I don't know, dude. They're second, like we said, you just said it earlier. We're like, second year, and it's a pandemic year. But they gave a lot of teams fits. They did. They beat some of the better teams in this league.
And if they bring back this core, just saying.
I mean, we watched. Remember the game 3 versus the Wizards? Of course you do. The game 3 against the Wizards. Me and you were watching that on Hockey TV. We were waiting for it to end so we could record the podcast. That might have been one of the more interesting playoff games all last playoff season.
One of the more interesting podcasts too. Because we recorded. That was a late podcast. I think
like an 11:30 p.m. recording.
I was one of the only ones I think that picked the Railers to win that series. I think you picked the Wizards. I think Brittany picked the Wizards, which is a big reason why I won, honestly, I think. Yep. So that gets us down to one final forward here. And I'm going to tab Andrew Miller, who played for the first-year Railers team. Started in the EHLP, immediately put up 9 points in 7 games, then got the call up to the EHL. And not because of the symmetry, but 11 goals, 11 assists. We'll add Andrew Miller, who's off at Framingham State, so he'll meet up with John Baker this fall, and technically both play their first game this fall, even though that Miller's already been there. But Andrew Miller rounds out our forward unit here and kicks us back to the D where we will start with Jagger Benson, which was mentioned in the interview with Sean. Jagger, Division I talent on the back end. When they brought him in, just really helped round out that core, right?
Mhm.
And when I say round out, for those that don't follow that terminology all the time, it puts guys in a different spot where they get to be more comfortable, matches up left and right, this and that. And Jagger he was so good for that team in the second half. Him and Collier, it just brought them a different dynamic on the back end, being able to move the puck the way that he did, coming out from back behind the net, and add what he did on the power play as well. So he's 1D. The other D, the guy that really ran their power play, was
fantasy boy.
Well,
nope.
I was going to say Dan Long.
Oh, never mind.
Who were you going to say?
I was going to go Tyler Drummond.
Well, let's go both. Let's start Dan Long first. Dan Long was brought up by Sean because he was a player that was supposed to be at Westfield State. And the pandemic happened.
Hey, some guys changed some letters on their schools.
Oh man, right? He played 14 games in college, right? Like we never had to go through this. Could you imagine playing 14 games in college and then going back to play juniors? Back. Like he literally was on the Seacoast Spartans team, that 2019-20 team, which was also an inaugural season, right?
No team we feel like spending around forever, but hasn't.
Yeah, right. So in that 2019-20 season, he left the Spartans mid-year to go join Westfield State for the second half. When you're a player like that, that's like, all right, I can go to college now. Great, awesome. I'm already in college. And then COVID hits you like, wait a second, I'm going back to juniors. But he embraced it, as Sean said. It was a huge part of the team, along with Tyler Drummond, as Jeff mentioned, was on Jeff's fantasy team.
Sure was.
And like quietly, like every box score, just another assist, right?
Apples. He likes apples.
And,
Healthy kid.
In 37 games, put up 25 points, just steady, right? And you know Long is gone, Benson's gone. Drummond has a chance to come back as no one. He comes back, he's easily in that top pair for them.
He might be one of the best defensemen we have in the league.
Coming back,
be up there for next year. Yeah,
he's gonna, if he doesn't get picked quick in fantasy, Jeff will have him week 1.
I will. You know it. Let's hope Anthony and Lauren don't listen to this episode and start doing scouting reports off of our off-season episodes.
Right. And another D that I wanted to mention here was Derek Hessinger. Again, Jeff's gonna notice the main connection here, and whatever. He's from New Jersey, right? He's from New Jersey, and actually would be eligible to come back. Spent the 2019-20 season with the Maine Nordiques, and that's where he caught Colby College's connection or attention when he was playing for the Nordiques, because Colby's obviously in Maine. It worked out that Colby said, like, hey, we want you to play some more minutes than you played last year. Head out to Worcester. Not really a big point guy. It wasn't really his thing, more of a defensive defenseman, but he was just steady for this team all last season. Played in 37 games, which in a pandemic year is pretty darn good. And he's, as I mentioned, heading off to Colby College, one of, I want to say 13 or 14 NESCAC commitments that we have from this past season.
Look at that. We already get 4D.
We fill the D fast. These teams of the week, we fill the D fast.
Yes, we do.
What are you laughing at? What I just said?
No, nothing. No. Continuing on to our fifth defenseman,
PJ Donahue.
PJ Donahue, our third pairing, if you will.
Yes, another player heading off to Suffolk this fall. A 2000 from Canton, Mass. In 34 games, had 7 points. But I just remember him being just rock solid and steady again for this team this past year. And when Benson came, kind of helped round out where each guy was, or where each player was paired up with. A left shot D, as I mentioned, heading off to Suffolk, a player that I think will just continue to develop at that next level. So we're gonna.
I think I might have the last one too, Neil. Someone that I thought was pretty darn good. Kind of, he's played for EHL in the EHLP. What about Saunders Penn?
look at him for a second here. Where did I had his name pulled up for a second?
Yeah, so he ended up playing 45 games with the EHL this year, and then played 6 games with the EHLP. Had 14 points in 45 games. I remember he was a left shot. As a Texas native, Southern guys. We've gone around to a few different states. It seems like Worcester really likes the Mass guys and the Rhode Island guys.
Let's hold him there for a second because maybe he's that utility.
So we bring up some names for honorable mention. Could be an
Yes.
honorable mention. Could be utility.
We said that Jaden Blackburn was young earlier. Josh Sacco, who helped that EHLP team reach the championship game. Can you see that birthday? Can you see that birth year?
Yeah, 04.
If
I was a freshman in high school.
Yes, if Ben Pfeiffer doesn't win the top prospect in the EHLP last year as the top 0304 player, it was Josh Sacco. Mm-hmm. I remember getting a chance to see this kid play a few times as an 04. So literally just turned 17 back on July 8th. So he was 16 years old as your cat comes back.
Waylon. Waylon's trying to hit the mute button. He doesn't want to hear Dad talk anymore.
42 total games last year, 30 points. At 16 years old. Like, wow, that's really good. Impressive. I don't know
if
like
they're Robert Marniello. Him and Robert were similar ages. I mean, that's the thing. Each year we keep having these guys that are young that come in and produce, and they don't care about how young they are. And that's honestly, to show you these guys work hard in the off season.
This is one of the most unique all-time lineups that we've done because it's a mixture of like EHL, EHLP players. Like with Sacco being an 04, the Railers don't have to rush him up to the EHL next season.
Right.
I'm sure they'll give him a few games, right? But they don't have to say like you're a full-time EHL player. They can have him get some EHLP work as well and keep playing players that are his age, right? Because that's what junior hockey is all about, right? Like playing higher up competition, right? Which is what you'll get to do. But if you're Sacco, how quickly do you want to be playing 20, 21-year-olds in this upcoming EHL season?
Right.
It gets us to the goalies. I got to pull up the goalies.
Oh, we know one of them. He was a popular topic towards the end of the podcast season with Kyle McKenna. I don't know if he had a nickname for him. I forget if he did or not. He seemed to have a nickname for everyone.
I mean, it's from Austria. I mean,
Stefan Kulanik.
I don't know what the nickname would be.
I don't know. The Machine. Where is he from? Austria? Yeah, the Austrian Machine. I don't know.
He was a candidate for Rookie of the Year. He was an outside candidate for Goalie of the Year. 2.93 goals against average, 918 save percentage, 15 wins. I know it was tough to watch his one playoff game because I guess he had a broken finger. Like,
yeah. As a goaltender, you need the digits to to be a good goaltender.
Like, I've never been a goaltender, none of you, but how does that feel?
I give him credit and he's got some big whats for even just stepping in the blue paint and trying to play with the broken finger. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. That was exactly the word I was actually going to say too, but I didn't know if I wanted to throw it in. Yeah. Well,
okay.
But I mean, yeah, that's 15-8 though. His record was a lot better than I thought the regular season. A little under 3 goals against, but again, a team that was in its second year trying to figure things out. Defensively is tough. You had Tyler Drummond, you had some of these other guys, Donahue and stuff, but team didn't always play well in front of him, and I think that's why his goals against was a little higher. But definitely a name to watch. Is he coming back? You said we're not sure.
He's an 02. I had a lot of questions I should have asked Sean. Sean, here's a list. Who's coming back? He probably would have said, you'll find out in September.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're a little more, I feel like they're a little more, not secretive, but they kind of like to keep things hush-hush. Like the organization, which I like.
Yeah. And I know another player that can come back. Do we go in this direction?
Oh, this kid's very good. Yep, I know where you're going.
Sebastian Woods joined the Railers late in the year. I mean, just look at the quick save percentage he put up in the regular season games they played in, 947.
Yep.
And the postseason numbers aren't as high, but there's a couple tough games against the Rangers in there, which I remember Rich reaching out to me and saying, this kid is making saves that are out of this world.
Yep.
And I was like, Rich, aren't you on the bench? And he's like, yes, I had to text you.
Yeah,
And
I'm pissed off.
I was like, okay. He goes, no, turn the game on. He just dove across the crease and got one with his face, basically. I was like, okay. I think I want to go and put Sebastian Woods here.
Okay. I was going to say we had a couple honorable mentions. Maki. He was the Finnish kid, right? Tobias Maki. And they had a decent amount for 2 years. I mean, they have more goalies than some of these other teams we've gone through that we wanted to pick that have had 8 seasons to pick from. So
right,
credit to them.
And they brought in Brendan Carew from the Chiefs in that 2019-20 season. He's going to start at Salem State this fall. That gets us down to the utility. The utility may be hard for us this week.
Let's say Abraham Saunders Penn. And who else did we have? Unless you want to go with one of these other goaltenders. What else do we have as far as names?
I got one here. Because it was brief and it was a player that could come back also. Another 2001. Mike DiMascolo, when he first arrived, he scored a goal at the edge where the Wizards play. We've talked about my perch numerous times.
I love
I had this perfect angle of it, and I was like, that's where he's going to shoot. He's going to shoot it right there. He's shooting it right there. He shot it right where I was looking the entire time, and it went in the goal right in that spot. Good speed, great hands. In 17 games, a quick 12 points, eligible to come back. Like I was saying before, if they can bring back, maybe not even all these guys, right? But a core of the players that are eligible to come back, I'm on the Railers train again this season.
Yes, all aboard. Okay. Commissioner Ravin hopping back on. Oh, the biggest thing about DiMascolo there, he's from Cranston. He's from the town I live in.
There you go. Dude, he's definitely a neighbor.
You popped that over and it said Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm like, oh, where are you, buddy? I'm on Pontiac Ave. Where are you? Let's meet up. Let's go.
Well, that will do it for the Railers. Who am I doing next week? I hadn't even confirmed who I'm doing next week. Either the Apple Core or the Spartans.
I would say we still have the core. I know
we still have the core. We still have the Spartans. We still have the Maine Eclipse. We still have the New Jersey 87s.
We're going to do of the original teams.
Yeah, we're going to do an EHLP to EHL all-time lineup at some point too. I know summer is kind of coming to an end, but we still have over a month left of these. So
I say it's still July technically. Yeah,
it's a long off season, man. It's a very long season. But that will do it for the Railers Junior Hockey Club and their all-time lineup. Just to read it off fast: forward core of Joe Lazat, Kolye Benkoskis, George Vanakis, Tucker Twardowski, Matt Pimentel, Johnny Baker, Colin Rowe, Jonathan Corshane, Jaden Blackburn, Connor Donovan, Damon Dulac, Andrew Miller. Defensive core of Jagger Benson, Dan Long, Tyler Drummond, Derek Hessinger, PJ Donahue, and Josh Sacco. Goaltenders Stefan Kulhanek and Sebastian Woods. Forward, utility, if you will, Mike DiMascolo. There's a lot of wild names in there.
Yeah, they like the wild ones.
That may take a pronunciation guide for some people. Yep. But that will do it for the Railers. I think we're doing the Apple Core next week. So we'll talk to you then, Jeff.
Sounds good, Neil. See you then, buddy.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.